Hey devs, welcome to another GB Studio tutorial. This one's gonna be about stats. So what you wanna do is set the default stats right where a player starts a new game. For me, that's on the title screen, right here in the loop. And in my previous video, I set the player HP, and I'm just going to create a couple more variables here. Make sure you use the ones with the $sign because we're gonna need them to appear in text. And only the $sign ones appear in text, just a reminder. So we got player HP, let's do player STR. Just using an acronym that stands for strength. I'm gonna set this to 10. And remember, I'm pretty sure you need to do these before you switch the scene. Because I think once you switch the scene, it's not gonna matter what code runs after it. Then we need player level. What the heck was I writing? So then we need player level. We're going to start them at level 1. You can search set and just select set value to. Then let's add some XP in here. Okay, that's fine. Player XP, we're going to start that at 0. And the order here doesn't really matter. So we got player HP, we got player level, we got player strength, and we got player XP. And then we got switch scene, which is gonna switch to the GURBS house. I think these are all the stats that we need for now. Oh, let's make this 10. Set strength to 10. Okay, so I think these are all the stats that we need for now. I have a squirrel here that you can fight, and I'm gonna use these stats now in this fight with the squirrel. Okay, so if you go into the enemy, basically I let the player choose whether they want to attack or run. So if the player decides to attack, that means the fight's gonna start. And in a previous video, in the combat video, I added critting. I'm gonna skip over that just for now. So if you don't crit, all I did was subtract a value from the enemy health, as you can see right here. And I'm subtracting 5. Well, instead of subtracting a value, now what I want to subtract is a variable. And as you guessed it, it's going to be the player strength. And also here, when the text displays no crit deal 5, I don't want to show 5 anymore. I want to show whatever the player's strength is. And we can show that by doing $20. Where I got this $20 from is it's right here, and that's the number of that variable. So for the crit, what we want to do is deal a little bit more damage than the player's strength. And there's a couple of ways we can do that. You can create a new variable that just keeps track of what the crit amount is, or you can always do some math to calculate what your crit amount is. And in this case, I'm going to do some math. All right, so stick with me. This might be a little confusing. But to do a crit, what I'm going to do is search math, and we're going to do some math. I'm going to move this right up here before we subtract the enemy health. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the player strength. I'm gonna get the player strength, and I'm going to add, and I'm gonna select variable, and I'm gonna choose player strength. So if you get what this is doing, is this player strength is going to, so I'm going to add player strength to player strength. So if player strength is 10 and I add 10 to it, it's going to be 20. If player strength is 20 and I add 20 to it, it's going to be 40. What I'm doing is I'm doubling the player strength. So if you crit, what's going to happen is that you're going to deal double damage. So here we have player strength. I added player strength to it, which means player strength is now doubled. Now I have the enemy health, and I need to subtract. And instead of subtracting a value here, I'm going to subtract a variable. And I'm going to subtract player strength. So I doubled player strength since the player crit, and now I'm subtracting double what the player strength is. So over here where I show how much damage you deal, I'm gonna do $20, and instead of the damage being 10, which is what I set it to, it's gonna show 20 because I added player strength to player strength. But right after that, I need to do math, and now what I need to do is get the player strength and I need to subtract the variable player strength, or else it would stay doubled. I hope this makes sense to you. A little bit lower in my code, I have a check. If variable, compare with value. Here, I'm taking the enemy health, and I check if it's less than or equal to 0, which means the enemy has no more health. And I hide the squirrel, because it's dead, and then I stop the current script from running. You might be confused with, why am I stopping the current script from running? If you remember in the previous video, you have to do this whenever you are using a loop. It's how you get out of a loop. And the reason that we're in a loop is because I keep asking the player, do you want to attack or run? Because if a player sees that he might die, it's nice to let the player run away from a battle. Maybe in a boss battle, I wouldn't let the player run. Anyway, so here we check if the squirrel's less is health than or equal to 0. So this is where I want to give my player XP. So let's do some math. And I'm gonna put this up here before I stop the script, because I'm not sure if anything after stop the script will run. So we take player XP, oh, conveniently it was already on it, and we're going to add and then a value here. And this is how much XP we're gonna add for killing the squirrel. So I'm gonna make this number really high. I'm gonna make it like 55. You're gonna get like 55 XP from this squirrel. The reason I'm making it so high is because once you get 100 XP, you will level up. And I want to level up the player real fast. I think it'd be nice if we also showed the player how much XP you got. So remember, search text and display some text. And over here it'll say squirrel, you win, or something like that. You win. You got, and then I'm gonna say you got 55 XP. Now you have, oh gosh, now you have, what am I doing? Now you have $22 XP. So that way the player doesn't need to go and check the stats menu to see how much XP they have for their, for their progress. It's always exciting right after you program a bunch of stuff to see if it works. Here we go. Moment of truth. Is it gonna work? Attack. You crit, deal 20, which means it worked. I dealt 20 damage. I set it to 10, remember? The enemy has 0 health. Oops, I don't think I set the health high enough. I killed it in 1 crit. You win, you got 55 XP. Now you have, oops, I didn't put the $ sign, I put the number sign. Now you have blah blah XP. So it looks like it's working. I just need to change this into the $ sign right here. All right, and there we go, we got XP, and let's do leveling up next, right? Heck yeah. So we know that the player just got XP, and all we need to check is if that XP is greater than or equal to 100 to know if they got enough to level up. We might as well do it right after we give the player the XP. So I'm just gonna go over here, and I'm going to search compare. So if the player XP is greater than or equal to 100, you could make this a variable that changes. For now, I'm setting it to 100. You need 100 XP to level up. So if it's greater than or equal to 100, it means that the player leveled up. I'm gonna put this code in front of the stop for the same reason that I mentioned before. All right, so anyway, if the player's XP is greater than or equal to 100, we're going to want the player to level up. And we need to increment the level by 1. You can always use math to increment stuff. So we just need to increment that variable by 1. I'm going to put this here. We're going to take the player level, and increment by 1 is just going to add 1 to it. You can also use the math event, but it's not necessary for this. So there we go. The player leveled up. And when the player levels up, we're going to want to do a couple of things, right? This is where I will do math. No, actually I won't. Yeah, sure I will. So I'll do math. And we're going to set the player strength, HP. We're going to add to the player HP. Oh, no, we need to create another variable. It's max HP. So player HP is going to keep track of the current HP. But we need to create another variable for the max HP. Player max HP. And what the player max HP, what we're going to do with that is we're going to add, let's just say 10. So every time that you level up, the max HP will go up by 10. So I'm going to search math. And what I'm going to do is set the player HP to a variable, and I'm going to set it to the player max HP. So some games when you level up, they heal you fully, and I'm going to do that too. So player HP is going to be set to the player max HP, which is now going to be 10 more than it used to be. And then one more thing we should do is the same thing for strength, right? We want so look up math, and we want to increase the strength, right? So we're going to have player strength, and we're going to add, and I'm just going to set it to value, and I'll add 5. So here we go. We increased the player's max HP, then we healed the player fully and set their health to the max HP. Then we increased the strength, and let's not forget we need to reset the XP. So we're going to do set variable set to value, and we're going to go to the player XP, and we're going to need to set this to 0 because you just leveled up, so your XP needs to go back down to 0. So we did add a new variable here, which was the player max HP. And if you remember in the beginning, I said we might add new variables. Well, so let's go back to the title screen where we set all these variables, and we need to add I'm going to do set variable to value, put it here, and I'm going to set the player max HP, and I'm going to set it to, in the very beginning, I'm going to set it to 50 because I want it to match the player health. Something else that I could also do is get the math function, and here I can just set the player max HP to the variable player HP. This way, if I change it here, it'll automatically update it down here. So I found out you can't do a variable subtracted by itself. It won't give you the value that you would expect. So instead I'm going to change this to a value and make that 10, and then over here where I added it to itself to double it, I'm just going to make this a value as well. So I'm going to add 10 and then I'm going to subtract 10. Not a big deal, but kind of does suck that the math function didn't work the way I expected it to. All right, let's test it out. I'm going to attack the squirrel. No crit, 10 damage. Awesome, looks like it's working right. Squirrel attacked me. I have 40 health. I'm going to attack this. I'm going to attack this crazy squirrel again. I crit it. The enemy has 246. If you deal more damage than the enemy's health, and it would go into a negative number, GB Studio doesn't support negative numbers, so it'll actually, any number under 0 will go all the way up back to the maximum, which is 255. That's why you saw those numbers. Wherever you are subtracting from the enemy health, before you subtract, you gotta check if the damage is greater than the enemy health. Because if the damage is greater than the enemy health, we're just gonna wanna kill the enemy, so that way its health never goes into the negative number, causing that glitch. So I'm just going to add an event. I'm going to compare it with a variable. So here, before we subtract the health, we're going to check if the enemy health is greater than the player's strength. If the enemy health is greater than the player's strength, we can subtract. If it's not, we're just going to kill it because we can't subtract because it'll go to a negative number. All right, so here we got enemy health. If enemy health is greater than a player's strength, we can do all this stuff. We can subtract the player's strength and then return the player's strength back to what it was. This is the crit one. So we got to do this same thing for when you don't crit. So I'm just going to go here, if compare with that variable, same thing, enemy health greater than or equal to player strength. Let me make sure I did greater than or equal to here too. I just did greater than or equal to is fine because it'll make it 0 if it's equal to. Okay, and we need to do this right here, and move this in here, and move this in here. And now what we're going to put in the else is 0, right? So if you're going to deal more damage than the enemy has health, it means you're going to kill the enemy. So all we're going to do is we're going to set variable to a value. We're going to set the enemy health. We're going to set that equal to 0. So that way, it never goes to negative. And you can just copy this event and paste it here. I'm doing it twice because remember I have, actually I don't know how to paste it here. That worked. So the reason I'm doing it twice is because one of these is a crit and one of them is not. You probably wouldn't need to do that twice. So I forgot to move this actually outside of that if-else statement. Let me explain why. Here I added 10, and this if statement checks if this is true. So if this wasn't true, I wasn't subtracting the 10 back out of it. So let me close this and it'll make more sense. So here, since I added 10 here, I gotta make sure I always subtract the 10, not only if this if statement is true. This is supposed to be greater than or equal to. I accidentally had it set to less than or equal to. Both of these are supposed to be greater than or equal to. Logic. All right, here we go. This is gonna be the one. Looks good so far. Everything's working fine. A crit is gonna be dead now. I should say you win. You win, yes! So see, the glitch didn't happen. We avoided the glitch. And I got 55 XP. Now if I just kill it one more time, my XP is gonna be over 100 and I should level up. So let's check this out. I'm gonna attack. It has 13 health. If I crit, I'll kill it this time. And I didn't get a crit. It has 3 HP. So this is gonna be the one, it's gonna die. And you win. See, no more glitch. And I have 110 XP, which means I have enough XP to level up because all you need is 100. My character leveled up, I'm level 2, and that also made my stats better. So let's do one more fight so that you can see that instead of dealing 10 damage, I'll deal, I don't remember how much I increased it by, but we'll see. You crit, I dealt 25 damage, so I increased it by 5. So as you can see, all that seems to be working. My strength is now higher since I leveled up. We want to level up the player when their XP goes over 100, but as you saw, it can go over 100, right? So the same thing that we're doing here, where we're checking the enemy health and making sure it doesn't go into negative, we can also make sure that the XP doesn't go over 100. So right here, I check if the player XP is greater than 100, right? The thing is, since I'm adding 55 and I'm showing how much the XP is, it can show XP that's over 100. So if you wanted to, what you can do is add an if statement. I'm not gonna do it, but you can add an if statement and it'll check if the XP is greater than or equal to 100, and then you just set the value to 100. That way it never shows that the XP is more than 100. This was definitely one of the hardest things that we've done in GB Studio, and if you've stuck around, I'm proud of you. Things are getting pretty complicated, and it's not even programming, but logic, right? A lot of it is logic, and what you'll find is that the reason programming is intimidating to most people is because of logic. But I would love to teach you guys how to program. If you got this far, I think you can do the professional stuff. I think you can learn Unity, and I think you can learn C#. And I hope you stick around and go on this journey with me where we learn Unity and C# and we do the pro shit. Thanks for watching. Just a reminder, in the description I have a link to the itch page where you can download the project. Feel free to use the sprites and the code however you want in your own game. Thanks everyone, the channel's made it over 400 subscribers. Let's just keep it going, go higher. And time to start a slogan, right? Dev life.